All right. So we have this idea. The less one talks, the less one is caught. So again, there's all this stuff with discourse and language. People are said that they cannot speak or know anything about witchcraft unless they are caught. But those who are caught are told not to speak to anyone about it except for their unwitcher. I mean, this makes it really hard to get anybody to talk about this. Now, the local word for witchers, and I find this really interesting, is encrolieurs. My French is terrible, I know. And what is an encrolieur? It's someone who locks things up. And who do they lock up? They lock up witches. Or sorry, the people that lock stuff up are witches. Des encroliers are those who unlock or unclench. So when we're talking about encrolieurs, these are people who clench people up. And the description is a little paradoxical. When clenched, afflicted, they are open to everything. They have no reserve. They babble about witchcraft. The person bewitched just doesn't have any boundaries. When they are unclenched by the unwitcher, they are in fact bound up so that they have practices that they do, so they won't be open to being further afflicted by witches. They are bound with amulets and practices. Now, what is an unwitched practice? Well, we have a great one right here, the ox heart ritual. I love this. So an ox heart is cooked in a pot. You stick pins in it. They claim that the bewitcher is forced to come because the pains hurt him so much. The pins are through the ox heart, and then they reach the witch, and the witch cannot bear the pain, and they come to beg for relief. So when they beg for relief, they reveal themselves to be witches. When the witch shows up, he's like a madman, but you shouldn't talk to him. For in fact, if you talk to him, the witch, who is stricken by this return of the spell of his own body, who is afflicted by witchcraft himself, he is cured. He immediately recovers his magic force and begins to cast spells again. The ritual has no effect. So there's a system here. They take the ox heart, the unwitcher does it, and the afflicted person pounds the nails into the ox heart, roasts it in a pot, whatever. That's thought by virtue of contagion, you could say, by virtue of sympathy. What am I getting at? The ox heart being stuck with the pins is the sorcerer being stuck by the pin. When the witch comes forth due to this ritual, though, if you speak to that witch, they're cured. They can resume their circulation of energy. If no one talks to the witch, then they're okay. So built into the system is that you're not to be talking to the witch. All right, we're going to hear about a man named Grippon, who is a local healer. He's local, he's dynamic, and he carries a crow with him at all times. During the day, he treats animals, and at night, he does unwitching. We hear a story about Manceau and Grippon. There's a man named Manceau who's afflicted, who's bewitched, and Grippon does battle with the witch. And as he's doing this psychic battle with the witch and doing these other rituals, they describe him shaking, fighting, saying, oh, the witch is strong. The witch is so strong. It's thought that the unwitcher, when they attack the witch, is said to be going body for body, heart to heart, in mortal combat. Now, something happens that freaks people out. They've done the ox heart ritual. The result of that is that the witch is afflicted and comes forth. Well, in fact, the accused witch does show up and is actually acting crazy, agitated, and nobody will touch him or speak to him because they're like, this is a sign that he's being afflicted by counter witchcraft. And if you were to touch him, he would be cured, or he might further afflict you. Now, our victim after this is cured, and the witch moves away. However, the witch believes that Manceau, the victim, has actually bewitched him, when in fact it's like the unwitcher has afflicted him. It's hard to say how this whole system works out. There is a story that when Manceau was sick, the witch, who he wasn't getting along with, came to his bedside and kept tapping his foot against the bed of the victim, which is thought was that action actually intensified the witchery. All right, so there's a system here, and we need to kind of look at it, because also out of this, this is the moment when seeing these examples that Fabrasado realized this is serious business. Death is on the line for the victim and the unwitcher. These mere words have huge effects. This shows the dynamic of the circulation of force and violence in this system. So I like her diagrams here, which I've reproduced. So if we're looking on the first one, the moment of loss. Here, the anti-witcher comes, and the bewitched is considered negative. The witch is considered positive. The witch is named Trippier. So Trippier is the witch, and he is pulling energy from the victim. The unwitcher shows up, right? And the bewitched is still losing all this energy to the witch. The unwitcher is also positive. So he is gaining stuff. The unwitcher jumps on in here, puts himself in not necessarily the position of the victim, but short circuits the position of the victim. So now there is the victim is out of it and is maintaining their own energy, but the witch and the unwitcher are in conflict. At this point, there can be, in any situation, there cannot be two powerful positive figures. So at that point, the unwitcher pulls the energy from the witch. At that point, the victim regains his self-possessed force because the witch is no longer stealing it. He's no longer leaking his vital force. And the unwitcher continues to afflict the witch, hopefully unto death. This all gets more complicated the further we go along. But just sort of think about this circulation of fluids, of vital forces. Think of it as there's like people who are weak, the ones who are negative. These are the victim. And there are people who are strong. They're positive, like the witcher or the unwitcher. The weak, when connected to the strong witch, is depleted. The unwitcher does battle with the witch, taking up the dominant positive position, as if they are bewitching the original witch. There can be no two positives in the room. There can be no two positives in the center. We'll see there can be lots of negatives, but there can be no two positives. So the witcher does battle. So the unwitcher meets the witch, as I'd said, taking up the dominant positive position as if bewitching the original witch. There's no room for two dominants in this system. The unwitcher responds to a supposed ritual, right? So supposedly the witch, Trippier, has done some sort of magic ritual against Manceau. However, there's no evidence that he did anything. He probably didn't do anything. It's just an accusation. But reacting to a supposed or a fake ritual, the unwitcher does a real ritual, physically does a ritual and enacts a battle. There may be no psychic battle there. There may be no actual conflict. There may be no witch out there doing witchery. But the minute the unwitcher comes in, stuff gets real. And they do real rituals to respond to supposed or false rituals or assumed rituals. It remains difficult to understand the actual power of the ritual. Does the ritual do the unwitching, or the force of the unwitcher and their personality and their personal vital strength? All right, I'm going to take a break. Do your thing. I'll be right back.